My guess is that all of us at some point in our life experienced a spiritual transformation of some shape or form. While transformation includes change, the two are absolutely opposite and different. We're all used to change since it is constantly happening within our lives. There are lots of changes that have happened since each and every one of us entered our journey here on earth. In my lifetime, for example, trains have given way to planes for mass transit. We've gone from operators on landlines to, hey Siris, call my friend Joe. Cars are no longer Sherman tanks that guzzle gas, but vehicles that are totally electric. What are some of the changes that you've experienced or that you've seen in your lifetime? Television. I'm sorry, what? Email. Church online. How about man's walked on the moon? What else? I'm sorry, what? Solar panels.
Records going to CDs, going to streaming.
Boom, ba-doom, ba-doom, ba-doom. And we've seen a lot of that. I can remember when we used to listen on 78s. My mother had a huge collection of 78s, and now we don't even need records anymore. What else?
Space station.
Space stations. Yep.
Education.
I'm sorry.
Education.
Education. Gas prices. But they're on their way down. So change may happen gradually or it might happen quickly. We never know. And according to Webster's, change means to make a shift from one to another, like when we change sides on a particular argument or issue. Or it can mean to make a difference in some particular way by modifying it. For example, oh, Dad changed his will already. Change also happens because of our social media. The information online is made to manipulate us to believe as the writer does. We must remember that Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and now TikTok, as well as multiple other social media outlets, have made us the product that they are selling. It is our posts, our pictures, our meals, our ideas, our political concepts that have become their products. And these companies are making billions because of us for our postings. That kind of change has cost us dearly as in our lives as well as our country. I'll never forget the first time that I experienced a major change. I was 13 years of age, and my dad, who worked for Diamond Match at the time, was transferred from itty-bitty little Chico to Portland, Maine. And within a week after graduation from Chico Junior High School, we were packed and on our way to the opposite end of the country. I was angry, I was frustrated, and I was scared. I hated my parents for taking me from from the only town that I ever knew to, and the only church and friends and schools that I had ever known, to a place that was strange. After all, I knew no one and was beginning high school. People talked funny, they dressed differently, and they had strange names for things, like tennis shoes were sneakers, and Levi's were dungarees, or how about purses were pocketbooks, and a milkshake was precisely that, milk that had some flavoring in it, and they shook it up and then served it to you. I felt like I was in a foreign land. Change is something that happens because of a move, a new job, a new school, a divorce, or even death. For the most part, it is an outward experience. If we look at transformation from the spiritual aspect, we understand that something is shifting. It's evolving below the surface within us. Transformation is about allowing ourselves to be loved rather than changing ourselves to be lovable. The first major transformation that happened to me was over a 9-month period of time in 1991 and 92. On December 2nd, I was fired as the community services director of a city in Southern California. I was gone on a 3-2 council vote in a political squeeze. 17 days later, my brother died of AIDS. 6 months later, I had to have major surgery and had an extended stay in the hospital because of an infection. And a month later, my partner of 15 years said, "I'm leaving you." I hit rock bottom. I did not choose any of those experiences. They chose me and forced me to go within to a level I had never, ever known before. I felt like a beat-up victim and didn't know where to turn. And if we had time, each of and every one of you could probably share the same kind of experience that forced you into an area that you didn't want to go and moved you into a journey of spiritual transformation. Can you see the difference between change and spiritual transformation? Spiritual transformation is God calling us to our real self, to who we really are deep within that oftentimes we don't allow others to see. Change modifies our behavior. Transformation modifies our values and our beliefs and our desires. Change happens all around us. Transformation happens within us. We often think that because of what we see advertised or dropped into our email that we need or want something new and different in our life, that will transform us. That is really a form of change that is manipulating us through social media. You won't find love or God there. On the other hand, love transfers and transforms. Transformation is about loving ourselves so that we might love others at a deeper spiritual level. Transformation moves us into a space and a place of absolute surrender. It is accepting that God is working through us and that we no longer have to do everything out of our own power. So just why does spiritual transformation matter? Why is it so important in our lives? Richard Rohr, in Jesus' Plan for a New World, writes, "Transformation, though, is not the same as change. Change is when something new begins. Transformation is just the opposite. It more often than not happens when something old falls away. It happens after a crisis, when something we've learned to depend on is taken away. Not all crisis leads to transformation. When something is taken away that you've grown used to or addicted to, you will either turn bitter or be transformed." Spiritual transformation is like releasing our old heart and welcoming a newer, more accepting, a more loving heart within. I loved how one online author explained the difference. A change can make something better, but only a transformation can make a better something. Transformation has been around since we've begun. In Genesis, we're told the story of Cain killing Abel. And can you imagine the grief that Abel's parents must have felt? It must have been horrific. And then there was Moses, who went up on the mountain and spent 40 days up there on Mount Sinai. His transformation was so remarkable that his followers, even his own brother, was afraid to come near him. Transformation of Jesus was cited in Matthew 17. After 6 days, Jesus took Peter and James and his brother John and brought them up to a high mountain alone, and Jesus was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his clothes turned white with light. Transformation is not a new phenomenon, except when it happens to us personally. And then sometimes it may feel like our world is falling apart. We may feel stuck. You're not sure you're in the right job, or your relationships are not happy and satisfying, or we may begin to blame others or judge them for what is happening to others rather than taking responsibility as science of mind teaches us to. So just what should we do when we feel like we've got one foot stuck in quicksand and the other one in 12 inches of sticky mud? It is a perfect time to be alone. Being alone can be scary and uncomfortable. However, that sacred time can produce and uncover your sacred truth. Or maybe a major crisis has transpired in your life. A crisis can bring dramatic change. We need only look to what happened to the residents of Paradise and Magalia around that area during the campfire in 2018. Out of that crisis may come constant disagreement with friends, a spouse, or a boss. Maybe you're having challenges communicating. An edginess may begin to present itself in a normal activities and functions. If any of these things are transpiring within you, then maybe it's time to be still and observe them through the process of meditation. Don't run from conflict, but rather use them as an opening to explore your higher self. Maybe you feel like your productivity is not what it used to be. Has concentration given tasks become difficult? Or maybe nothing ever gets crossed off the to-do list. Sometimes I feel like that I'll never ever delete all the emails on my computer. Remember that it's okay to press the pause button in life. You're being reminded that your to-do list is not your total focus in life. It is time to take a walk. Maybe read a spiritual book. Spirit is nudging you to do a little research about yourself and your own personal growth. Maybe anxiety or depression are showing up more regularly than you'd like. Either of these emotions can create sleep challenges or desire to oversleep. If you find yourself with the inability to sleep, then grab a journal and begin to write about your experience. You'll be surprised at what your unconscious has to say as your pen glides across the page. This exploration is vital to a spiritual transformation. Finding what has been buried spiritually and emotionally can help you create a new direction in your spiritual and personal life. Sometimes when transformation begins in our life, our emotions overflow. Maybe you laugh uncontrollably, or tears show up when you least expect them, or a scream might even escape when you least expect it. Don't push those tears away. These emotions are there for a reason. There is strength in raw emotions. And when we can just let them happen, when we can embrace them, our heart is softened. Our heart is opening to what the divine is sharing with each of us, and there is power in our willingness to be vulnerable. Transformation is not an analytical process. To many of us, we have survived on our analytical abilities and skills. And of course, being analytical does serve a purpose when we're making decisions or we're on the job. But they're not helpful when we're experiencing a spiritual transformation. Transformation is natural and filled with spirit. Things may show up in our lives when we least expect it. Many years ago, I constantly was finding feathers everywhere I went. And someone pointed out to me, it's probably your brother showing up to let you know he's here. It always happened when I least expected it. And when I was walking on my way to my ministerial interviews at Asilomar in 2006, there on the ground was a feather. when I most needed to see it. And I knew it was Ken telling me that everything was going to be all right. Don't worry. Often on our spiritual journey, we receive signs from the universe. It may be an animal encounter, an unexpected phone call, or even a billboard that has a message that clicks within us. Don't knock it. Pay attention. It may be the answer to a question that God has risen within you, or even support you, just as the feather has for me. Listen to what your inner voice and what it is telling you. As one of my mentors always says, more will be revealed, Eileen. That inner voice or intuition is the gift of the divine's message if we're only willing to listen to that inner voice, so that indeed more can be revealed. Sometimes we feel a sense of inner peace like never before. There are always peaks and valleys on our transformational journey. It is time when everything insignificant falls away. It's a time of clarity. We feel at peace and calm. We know we are moving in the right direction. No one has ever said that a spiritual transformation or a transformation of any shape or form is easy. The storm of transformation, however, is within us, and it is busy reshaping us. We get to point of that transformation not by fighting or stuffing or running from the signs that are being given to us or the emotions that pop up. Spiritual transformation is found in our willingness to be vulnerable. It is found in our surrender to the moment so that we might be open to the gifts of the divine. It is a willingness to begin a journey where the destination is unknown, and a willingness to stay with it even when the road gets rough or we feel like we are completely and totally lost. It's being naked, knowing that something new is going to appear, but we're not sure when or how or where, but we trust that indeed it will appear. I would be remiss if I didn't share with you that spiritual practice is part of the transformation. I've shared some of the challenges along the way, but I haven't been explicit as to how to begin or how to hang in there. The simplest way is to do spiritual practice, for me, is to create an agenda or a checklist even. Yes. So what you want to do each day throughout the day in your spiritual practice. Begin with meditation, and if you're not used to doing meditation, try 5 to 10 minutes. I have a friend who actually started with 2 minutes a day. That's all she felt she needed to do, and gradually she added additional minutes. Be sure to include prayer for others, but don't forget to pray for yourself. So often we include everybody else, but by step that we need prayer. Do an inspirational read, for example, from a Science of Mind magazine, and I happen to have August's available. Or something like a Mark Nepo inspirational book. Then pick a relevant spiritual book that will support your journey that you're on. Chanting, affirmations, and prayer partners are also practices that gently guide us to the right direction. Each of us is responsible for our own process. Create what works and stretches you. And remember, when you eat an elephant, it's one bite at a time. And your spiritual practice indeed can be done throughout the day, one bite at a time. And don't forget the importance of gratitude for the good stuff and even the challenges that make us grow. Be sure to express gratitude for each and every blessing that comes into your life. Joseph Campbell stated we must be willing to get rid of the life we've planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us. The old skin has to be shed before the new one can come. Indeed, like the snake, transformation is shedding what no longer works for us in order to make space for something new. We have to create space for newness to come in. How many of you have seen the Shawshank Redemption? Oh, good. It was made in 1994, and if you've never seen it, go on YouTube or Netflix or whatever, but do see it, because it is really a science of mind movie in my take. It stars Tim Robbins as Andy Dufresne and Morgan Freeman as Red. It's a story about a prison in Maine, and Robbins, who is an innocent man, is tried and found guilty for the murder of his wife and his wife's lover, and is sent for the rest of his life to this prison in Maine, where he spends about 25 years until he escapes. He is a symbol of hope and positivity for his fellow inmates. Andy is also a symbol of goodness and kindness under deplorable conditions. Morgan, however, indeed is convicted of murder, and he spends 40 years in prison before he is paroled. And the two become very supportive friends through the years as they do their time in Shawshank. When Andy escapes, he hides money on the outside for his friend Red, just in case he is ever paroled. And Andy has escaped to the Pacific coast of Mexico, and indeed, ultimately, Red does get paroled. And Red finds the money, and he leaves on a bus for Texas to ultimately escape into Mexico. And as he is riding along, he narrates with the following statement: "I find I'm so excited. I can barely sit still or hold a thought in my head. I think it's the excitement only a free man can feel, a free man at the heart of a long journey whose conclusion is uncertain. I hope I can make it across the border. I hope to see my friend and shake his hand. I hope the Pacific is as blue as it has been in my dreams. I hope." Sometimes we just can't sit still while transformation is happening. Indeed, it can be a long journey. We don't know what the end is going to look like or be. The conclusion is uncertain. We do, however, know that indeed it is better than where we are right now, and it's worth the work, the time, the effort, and the journey to get there. This is the truth in my life, and this is the truth in yours, and so it is. Oh, special music again.